low, 2000, baby. Eden Palms, Monterey Road, I'm a project, baby. Eagles Drive, we was at Oak Grove, barely graduated. We got Tasha, Molly, Bodie, Corbett, they gon' have to hate us.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the New Media Podcast. I'm your host, Ya. We hope you enjoyed the last episode because, as always, today's going to be an even better episode. I got the whole crew with me. Everybody's in the house today. But, of course, today is another special day. I feel like each and every week, somebody wants to come on here and talk their shit. Once in a while, they want to rep their teams. And, of course, we got a very, very special guest for you today. So I'm going to let him introduce himself right now. The floor is yours, my boy.
Thank you. It's the man at the one and only, and we finally got a chance to kind of boast about the Raiders. So, I have to step in and talk my stuff, but we're going to talk about that later down in the line. So I got my chance, and we got a Seahawks fan here too, so it's going to make it even more sweet. So let's do it.
I got nothing to say.
You already know what
I
it is.
to say that later down the line, I'll tell you that much.
We're definitely going to get around to that game. We got the legendary Hennett the Bandit in the house today, man. Really appreciate you setting aside some time to join us today. But of course, week 12 just got wrapped up. It's only right that we talk about it. But before we jump into week 12, temperature check. How's everybody doing today?
Chilling, man. Feeling good. I'm not lying.
Nah, you're lying, bro.
I'm feeling good about? What are you feeling good about?
There's a new era in Green Bay. That's why. That's what I'm feeling good about.
Era.
Nah, he lying, man.
There's a new era in Green Bay. That's what I'm feeling good about.
No more ayahuasca.
Love at first sight.
Nah, man. Another week of football, another weekend, another win. But of course, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The very first three games that kicked off week 12. We had a Thanksgiving game slate. The very first game, the Buffalo Bills on the road in Detroit get a win in a nail biter, 28-25.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Detroit Lions that we were talking about earlier in the season. The ones that are able to really put up points on the board, and this was closer than I expected. Coming into this game, I think we all had the same idea that Josh Allen was just going to dominate, and the Lions wouldn't put up much of a fight because their defense is terrible. But I mean, they got busy in this game. They kept up with the Bills, and of course, Josh Allen came up clutch with that final drive at the end of the game. But at the same time, I feel like this was like a good sign for the Detroit Lions that they're getting back onto track, because it's been a while since they've had a game like this. Of course, last week they had a good game, but this was the one that they really needed, even if they lost. So, I mean, and on the other side, Josh Allen, another end zone pick. I mean, what's new? He continues to it feels like every single week he's going to end up with one in the end zone. Of course, he's going to come up big. Turnovers don't matter to him, but he's got to clean up that part of his game. Especially when he wants to make it to the playoffs, because I feel like this team, even with their record being, I believe, 8-3, it still feels like there's just some parts of them that are missing, that they start off slow, and they need to get better. So it's a good win for the Bills.
Man, it might be a good win, but they lose Von Miller the rest of the season, it might be tough for them. I'm not gonna lie to you. Big defensive key piece if they lose him for the rest of the season. So I mean, they came in. Detroit fought hard. Josh Allen did clutch up in the fourth quarter, big touchdown to Diggs and then a game-winning field goal drive for the team. But, I mean, this is Detroit we're talking about. This is one of the worst defenses in the leagues that we're talking about. And for them to come back down, playing down against the Lions, it's tough. Now losing Von Miller, a big key piece, man. Who knows what's going to happen down the line. So, I felt like these last couple of weeks for the Bills, they've been playing kind of shaky. They've been very close games. Either they've been losing. Josh Allen, I think that was his seventh interception in 4 games.
Seventh, like couple in the red zone, handful.
Couple in the red zone. So there's a lot of turnovers coming from him. There's a lot of complaining from the sidelines coming from Diggs as well. Even in like the first half of this game, I think he only had like 1 catch, and he was already there complaining on the sideline saying, "I'm not receiving the ball." So down the line, might see some struggles in the playoffs for this team, but you could say it's a good win in the division they're playing in. But to me, I don't know. What you got, Bandit?
I mean, for me, it's quite simple. You just got to credit it to Josh Allen's elbow. He's just not throwing it like he used to, man. I can't lie. Not making the traditional passes. He hit like 20 targets to Diggs. About like 7 got to him. You saw, like Big H said, he was getting frustrated. So at this point, I think that elbow is a bigger issue than we thought previously, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that, man. The elbow injury is of course, it's a very, very rare injury. It only happens to like baseball players, not often to football players. And for him to be dealing with that, It's definitely showing in his play. But yeah, I don't know how to assess this game. I can't necessarily call it a good win because the Detroit Lions, they're pretty much playing for nothing. They do got a lot of heart, like we mentioned at the beginning of the year. But for them to be in a close affair with a team like Detroit and losing Von Miller potentially for the rest of the season, they did dodge a bullet on that because he didn't tear his ACL. But they don't know the timetable on his return. But this team, their defense, they need their defense to step up because when you go up against a team like a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you're going to need your defense to get a stop. And Von Miller is a playmaker. He's a disruptor. So without him, that's a very, very big loss. But other than that, Josh Allen, of course, 253 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. He did a lot of his work on the ground as well, 10 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. And he found Diggs late for the game-winning touchdown. So overall, I guess we'll call it a good one for the Buffalo Bills, sitting at 8-3 in a very, very tight division. They needed this one badly, and they got it. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game, the 1:00 game, the Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys win this game 28-20.
What was the spread coming into this game? We kind of talked about this. Was it the one that was?
It was the Dallas Cowboys -10.
Yeah, I told you, there's no way that a divisional spread they're gonna cover that. But honestly, I mean, for the Cowboys, at least on their side, Michael Parsons again, 2 sacks. It's just this guy just keeps churning them out. Like he's in the front running for the defensive player of the year for a reason. I mean, the guy just constantly harasses any team that he goes up against. And then on the other side, Dak Prescott had a really clean game. CeeDee Lamb got 100 yards. Welcome back Zeke, 92 yards and a touchdown. He's finally maybe able to put away the Pollard talk for a bit now. But just for this team, if they're able to have Zeke healthy and look good, I feel like this is that 1-2 punch that we talked about earlier in the season. It can be deadly for them. And of course, CeeDee Lamb continues to be even good every single week. But OBJ signing for this team would be crucial. I feel like if he signs for this team, like it's looking scary for anybody that goes up against the Cowboys, especially considering how good their defense is. On the other side, I mean, Saquon Barkley got bottled up. Of course, we talked about Daniel Jones and his Foot Locker wide receivers. And I mean, Darius Slayton was probably his best wide receiver, I believe, on Thanksgiving. And there's not much to talk about with that offense. They continue to try, but the Giants are starting to lose games, man. And it feels like they're losing that momentum that they started off with. It's getting a little bit scary because the Commanders keep winning. So that's one to look out for.
Yeah, we talked about how we all picked Cowboys to win this one. We talked about once they bought up Saquon, Daniel Jones. I mean, receivers on this list, like I'm gonna name him out. Like I can't even pronounce it. Gary Brightwell, Lawrence Cager, Isaiah Hodgins. This last one I'm a butcher. Chris
Myarick.
These are all extras from All-American.
Like this is like all actors from All-American. Like, come on now. I feel sorry for Daniel Jones and the Giants. Like Saquon, he only touched the ball. He only ran the ball 10 times. The game plan was already off from the jump. Like your running back is 10 carries, and he had like 4 of them in the second half. It's not really going anywhere. So, good one for the Cowboys, man. They're playing phenomenally well. Although Dak started off the game with 2 interceptions, which looked kind of bad. But Zeke, Pollard, they 170 yards together on the ground. And CeeDee, man, he's playing like a top 8 receiver this year in the league, and he's balling out. So Cowboys gaining a lot of traction these last couple of weeks, and Giants are slowly coming down to edge. Bandit, what you thinking?
I mean, I got 3 takeaways from this game. It's quite simple. The Cowboys, they won the OBJ Bowl. And second, what's called that CD catch? My goodness, that should have been the rule of the catch. I don't know what the refs were on. And then other than that, I mean, it's quite simple. The Giants, they can't play from behind. As far as like game scripts go, they got Daniel Jones. No disrespect, he's played decent this year, but if you're playing down with that type of quarterback at that point, like there's no coming back from a game. So I mean, good win for the Cowboys, that's for sure.
CD had a couple of those one-hand catches that didn't count either, man. I think he
I was talking about the one back of the end zone. That should
back of the end zone where his heel. When they said his heel was out.
Barely, that catch was filthy. Whew.
Yeah, that was a catch.
CD, man, he's making some noise, man. I think I might.
That defense is nothing to play with at all whatsoever.
To that top 6, top 7 category for receivers.
I mean, he's definitely better than that wide back in San Francisco. There's no question about that.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's not a debate when it comes to that. But overall, this was a very, very good one for the Dallas Cowboys. It started off rough for them. The Giants were putting up a little bit of a fight there, and Dak Prescott throwing it 2 interceptions. But in that second half, they took control of the game and they never gave it back. It felt like, every time the Dallas Cowboys had the ball, it was always they were generating points off of it. And Dak, he was just going to his best weapon, CeeDee Lamb, like we mentioned, and he finished with one hell of a day. He was making insane catches. That touchdown catch could have gone either way. And I told you guys this a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our overreactions and not an overreaction about the Giants football team, man. I told you guys that this might be the start of their downfall when they started to play teams in their division. A couple of times the Washington Commanders are coming up next, and they're supposed to win that game in Detroit, and they had this game on the schedule with the Cowboys. We're getting into the thick of their schedule where they got to play some tough teams, and they're sitting at a record of 7-4. A couple of weeks ago they had a record of 7-2, or 6-2 or something like that before they went up against Seattle. So I think we're starting to see the downfall right now, 100% for the New York Giants. I don't necessarily see like a way for them to, generate more wins and, getting back that momentum that they had in the beginning, because their game plan was simple. Saquon was going to carry the ball a lot, and he was going to do his work on the ground. They're going to work outside of that, but they've lost a couple key offensive linemen, that were, of course, important for Saquon and Daniel Jones. But so without those guys, it's going to be tough to get the ground game going. It's pretty much going back to the old days where the Giants didn't have an offensive line, so Saquon necessarily didn't have nothing to work with, and Daniel Jones was just stuck there getting sacked. But this Cowboys defense, man, they're one of the best defenses in the league. I got them at number 2 in my opinion. I got them behind San Francisco. And like you guys mentioned, man, if they're the winners of this OBJ sweepstakes, the one team that should be afraid of all of that, it was definitely the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Cowboys have an elite defense. They already have CeeDee Lamb and the 1-2 punch in the backfield of Zeke and Pollard. They're tight end Dalton Schultz, and you throw an OBJ into the mix, and now you push Michael Gallup to be a wide receiver 3. I mean, they're pushing to have like one of the best wide receiver trios with the Cincinnati Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd. So overall, this is a very, very good win for the Cowboys. They needed this one because OBJ was 100% watching. We can all agree on that. So he's definitely considering going into this team. These guys are the Bills. But we'll go ahead and move on to the last Thanksgiving game of the night. My Minnesota Vikings at home get a win against the New England Patriots, 33-26.
I mean, what a way for Kirk Cousins to beat the primetime allegations, man. He needed this game, but outside of that interception where he was trying to throw to KJ Osborne, it kind of sailed from him. I mean, he had a flawless game, 37 passing attempts, I think 30 completions. The guy was just like phenomenal. And he, of course, Justin Jefferson, we can talk about him every single week. We've done it every single week, and deservedly so. The guy just feels like every week he's making a catch where we're just like, wow. One catch where, and I'm not gonna lie, Kirk Cousins did not get enough credit for that pass. He just dotted it in a perfect spot where only Justin Jefferson could get it, and in double coverage, he caught it somehow. Like every single week, he's making contested catches where we're just like, and he not even one catches, it's multiple catches on every single drive. It could be 1 or 2. Like he's just making a big play. So, I mean, we can't speak enough about Justin Jefferson. If someone said he's the best wide receiver in the NFL, I have no argument against that. I wouldn't mind it at all. The other side, I mean, Mac Jones saved himself another year in this league. I mean, he had the best game of his season. He performed well. I have to give him credit for that. He kept the game close. And if it wasn't for that Patrick Peterson tackle, I mean, we could be talking about this game in a different light. But it's a good one for the Vikings again, pushing themselves to 9-2. They just beat up Bill Belichick defense and put up big points. So it's a good win on Thanksgiving.
It was a great win for Kirk Cousins on Thanksgiving primetime, man. He needed this one primetime. He needed this W on primetime. I'm telling you. If he came out, played like shit, yeah, I feel like there's no point of going to the playoffs because every game in the playoffs is primetime, and he's not going to show up. But this game he needed, though. So he came out, he balled. Other than that interception, like I'd be talked about, yeah, it's whatever. He came back, recouped, and hooped. JJ got involved, Thielen was involved, and Hawkinson was involved. So you got your 3 big targets on offense right there. Although Dalvin didn't have a big game, he had 22 carries for 40 yards?
Yeah, he didn't get nothing on the ground.
Yeah, he wasn't getting anything. But big games from Hawkinson, Thielen, and Jefferson, man. They hooped. And then on the other side, I feel like the Patriots, they didn't get the run game going. It was kind of slow for them, but Mac Jones had a good day. Other than that, Bill Belichick, he got torn up, man. I thought he was going to come out, play better, but good one for the Vikings.
What are we thinking here, Bandit?
For me, There's a couple takeaways I got from this game. As far as Mac, he actually balled out. I can't lie. He did his thing, and you gotta attest to the fact that he's throwing to Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar. Like we used to give Tua that slack of, hey, like he got these trash receivers. Well, where's that love for Mac? But I digress. That's another conversation for another day. But as far as this game, obviously, like JJ, he did his thing against Jones. He cooked him up. That was like the main matchup of the game, and he cooked him up. And then obviously, like Thielen got his touches, he got his catches on that end. Dalvin, I mean, he was kind of getting stuff, but that is what it is because they're getting in the air. And then, I mean, the biggest controversy was the Hunter Henry catch. You guys, what do you guys think about that? It's kind of curious.
I mean, I feel like that catch could have gone either way. Of course, since my team's involved in this whole situation, a lot of people are going to be like, man, the Vikings got away with one. But, a couple years ago, I think it was the Steelers and Patriots game. I don't know what tight end, what tight end on the Steelers caught that ball from Big Ben. It was kind of similar where he kind of tried to extend it for a touchdown, and the ball, he lost control of the ball, and it was ruled an incomplete pass, similar to Hunter Henry's play.
Jesse James?
Yeah, Jesse James
right
catch.
I remember that play. Yeah.
So it's just like, the replay showed that he had the ball, and then he brought it down to the ground, and then when the ball was going back up again, he kind of lost control of it. So,
I feel like he crossed the plane though, so it's like,
I don't think. I mean, he kind of did cross the plane a little bit, but like you got to complete the catch all the way through. It's not like you can't just cross the plane and drop the ball when you get there. Of course, that's Bryant. He's a victim of that, and then we go all the way back 10, 12 years ago with Calvin Johnson.
DK was just a victim of it literally yesterday on that sideline.
Say Travis Kelce too. The other couple.
I swear Travis Kelce against, was it the Colts or something?
Against the Colts, yeah.
But they ruled that one a catch though. They ruled that Travis Kelce won a catch.
That's the issue.
It's just a lot of inconsistency. Yeah. So I mean, I understand it, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I'm happy because that touchdown could have really changed the outcome of the game. But outside of all that, this is a very, very great win for my Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins on primetime, all the talk, all the chatter. Thursday night and Sunday night, I feel like he has a better chance compared to Monday night. But overall, I wish we could just keep him off primetime. But nonetheless, man, 30 for 37, like he completed 81% of his passes. And outside of the interception, like we mentioned, he had a flawless game. And Justin Jefferson, I'm not even going to talk about him at all this episode because I feel like he has done all the talking that I can possibly do. But Adam Thielen got involved. I wasn't necessarily too happy about not getting Dalvin Cook involved, but at the end of the day, our offensive line is pretty banged up right now. So, the run game was non-existent. But I do gotta say, man, our defense is pretty banged up. We played an awful game, man. For Mac Jones to come in there, I like Mac Jones. You guys all know that I'm a Mac Jones believer. But I didn't expect him to come into Minnesota and tear us apart. Like Nelson Aguilar was beating us over the top, and he just kept dotting up guys. And that was even without Jacoby Myers for the majority of the game because he got banged up on that first drive with a 43-yard catch. But overall, Mac Jones had himself a flawless game. He didn't turn over the ball, 382 passing yards, two touchdowns. And Ramondre Stevenson, man, with Damian Harris being out of the lineup this upcoming week and, maybe moving forward, he's the running back one in New England, because he's a dual threat back. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He gashed us for 4 catches, 80 receiving yards. So, but other than that, our defense, once we get healthy, we'll get back on track. I'm 100% confident in that. But man, we needed this one badly. Like, cause last week when we got our ass beat by the Cowboys, 37-3 at home, left a sour taste in our mouths, and there's nothing better to get that sour taste out of our mouths by playing another game on Thursday real quick. So overall, this is a good win for my team, sitting at 9-2 now. Now we're just getting back on track. We got another game this week at home against the Jets, so we just got to keep this thing going and try to chase the Eagles for that number 1 seed, man, or just try to hold on to that number 2 seed because I feel like things are kind of getting tight in the NFC. If you look at the standings, I'm not too sure if you guys have been peeping, man. A lot of teams got 7 and 8 wins, so I'm a little scared at this point. But we'll go ahead and move on from our Thanksgiving slate of games. We'll move on to our Sunday games. The very first game, the Browns upset the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-17 in overtime.
Is this the game that puts away Tom Brady's hopes of doing any damage in the postseason? I like this game for me. If I'm a Buccaneers fan or if I'm even a Tom Brady fan, I feel like this game was a dagger. This game hurt right here because it was very much winnable. And for Amari Cooper to get that big catch, and essentially allow Nick Chubb to just put the game away in overtime, it's just like I'm not even. Of course, you guys know I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady, but Like that hurt me seeing that, because it's just like that they were starting to build momentum. They were getting wins, and it just felt like this was the game where if they had won it, they're gonna continue to build off of that. And then for the Browns to be able to come in there and win, it's just like feels like it's a reset on everything. But I did like what I saw out of Rashad White. I think he should be the starter moving forward for this Buccaneers team. Of course, Chris Godwin had a big game. But other than that, it's just like losing a game like this was just detrimental, I feel like, for the Buccaneers, and I'm not gonna have it any other way. This was a very much winnable game, and for them to end up losing it, it was a dagger to me. So if you want to go ahead, Big H.
Browns, man, Tampa, there's a lot going on in Tampa Bay, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. There's a lot going on in Tampa Bay. First off, they lost Tristan Wirfs. That's a big key piece of that offensive line. They say he's going to be out at least 3 to 4 weeks. So that's one big key piece gone. And that defense, man, that defense just gets cooked on all cylinders, from the run game to the pass game to everything. Like Cooper had his day. Donovan Peoples-Jones had his day. Njoku to tie the game and force it to overtime with a touchdown, one-handed in the end zone. And we know what Nick Chubb does. Nick Chubb does what Nick Chubb does. So that defense, to me, man, they got trampled, they got ran over, and then offensively, it's
Brady didn't look
thing.
good himself either. I
Yeah,
can't lie.
Brady. I mean, every game he's throwing 46, 47 to 50 times. And it's like, okay, you ended the game with 1 touchdown, 260 yards, and you're throwing the ball 50 times. Some up, some bigs it up. You know, Chris Godwin had his day. He had a good game. Rashad White looked explosive. Mike Evans did not look part of the game at all. 2 catches, 31 yards. He did not look involved whatsoever. So I don't know about this Tampa team. I really believe they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs. They're really in a tight division, and I really can say that they might not even win their division at this point. Who knows what's going to happen with them? They face Atlanta. I think they still face Carolina again. And yeah, so they see those two teams. They're sitting at 5-6 or 5-5.
5-6 right now.
At 5-6.
5-6. That's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty. So they got a lot going on. Losing Tristan Wirfs is going to make that O-line even worse. Tom Brady, he gets sacked a lot. It's bad. So good one for the Browns, man. They get Deshaun Watson back this week. Man, only if they, clutched a couple of those games early on in the season. Their record could have been looking better coming in with Watson coming into this week against the Texans. They possibly could make some noise making it to the playoffs, but not anymore. So good one for the Browns.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's going on with Tom Brady, man. He came back, left his kids just to be in the tie race with the Falcons. That's a bit sad. I can't lie. It's a bit pathetic. Other than that, I mean, it was a great win for the Browns. Jacoby held it down. It's all about the future for both teams. I'm excited to see Deshaun next week, see what he can do. And then as far as that, Brady, he kind of has to figure out how to get his guys. The Rock, he got Chris Godwin the Rock, but Mike Evans, he's over the top. They're kind of missing some guy like AB to kind of brace the field, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, we'll see if they can figure it out in the playoffs. There's no telling at that point, to be quite honest, because it's a bit of a tough race down there, but we'll see.
Yeah, this game was very, very disappointing on Tom Brady's behalf. On Tom Brady's part. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They in the beginning, it felt like they had they had control of the entire game. Tom Brady, he finished with 2 touchdowns, and those drives were very convincing and commanding, and he's getting Chris Godwin the ball. Mike Evans. I was watching a lot of that game actually because I have Mike Evans on fantasy. But a lot of those throws he was making to Mike Evans, he finished with 9 targets, 2 catches, 31 yards, like you guys mentioned. But a lot of those balls he was throwing him were very uncatchable, or they were just way too far ahead and very inaccurate. So I'm not too sure what's going on with their connection, because when they get down there in the red zone, Mike Evans was always the go-to guy, and now they're kind of moving away from that and going in a different direction. But Mike Evans can also get you 10, 13 yards on a simple route on any given down. But it's nice to see Godwin have a day. But other than that, this loss it hurts a lot because I thought they were turning their season around. I took 3 weeks ago when they were going through that gauntlet, when they were playing the Ravens, the Seahawks, and the Rams, and they went out 2-1 going into their bye week. They needed a bye week to reset, and to come out like this and lose a game to the Browns, who are pretty much playing for nothing. They're waiting for their main guy to come back next week. You gave him a little bit of life. They needed this win. Jacoby Brissett, he got sent off. Right. Last game as a starter, he's going off with a dub, and now they got their main guy coming back. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got a tough one next week, and they're in a very, very tight division right now with the Falcons and the Saints, and they got the Saints on Monday night for the number one spot in their division. So, for the outlook for the rest of their season, I got no hope for this team. I can't lie. Tom Brady's my guy. He's always been my guy, but I can't be biased when talking about this team right now. They're sitting at 5-6, and they look pretty much pathetic. I can have all the hope I want in the world. I can say, I hope, I think things are going to turn a different page. But other than that, I mean, I'm just lying to myself. It's like Abdi with the Packers. We all lie to ourselves at some point.
I was gonna
right?
say, man, that's a fall from grace from last year. As far as like the offense was flowing last year compared to this year, it's kind of like just dunk off wide receiver screens, and that's about it. Like I don't know what happened.
Y'all seen the points out of offense, but that defense went from one of the best defenses to one of the worst defenses in just a year.
I mean, we did question Todd Bowles, like 5-6 weeks back, and Abdi said, is he the man for the job? Maybe he should be the guy in question. But at the end of the day, Tom Brady on offense shouldn't look this poor. At least don't be the reason your team is losing. I'm not saying it's all on Tom Brady, but at this point, I got to be fair. It's a 50-50 split. The defense is not showing up, and the offense is not doing much to help win the game. You're not generating longer drives, which means the defense has to come back on the field, so they're getting less rest and they're exhausted, and Tom Brady is supposed to be putting up a lot of points against teams like this. So it's just disappointing all around. So this is a very, very good win for the Browns. Jacoby Brissett got sent off the right way, and now Deshaun Watson's coming back, a guy that I like to root for a lot. So this is the Browns next year is going to look pretty crazy when they have him at quarterback, but we'll get a little bit of a little sneak peek these next couple of weeks with him under center. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Tennessee Titans on the road 20-16.
Fun fact, the Titans, I think now they have a 1-4 record against teams with a winning record. So, I mean, coming into this game, I think me and Big H picked the Bengals and you had picked the Titans. Of course, the Titans defense, even still in this game, they ended up holding the Bengals to 20 points. I think the score was to 2016. But T. Higgins, another monster game. I mean, even without Jamar Chase, this guy continues to show up. And I feel like this team has really figured it out how they can perform even without T. Higgins. And of course, Samaje P. Ryan gets involved on the ground and you're able to throw a dink and dunk passes to him. And this team just has his identity figured out. And when Jamar Chase comes back, I feel like it's really primed to take off. And on the other side, I mean, the Titans, I feel like this team's, their style of football is not necessarily sustainable. They can compete. They're able to hold teams lower, but just offensively, if it's not Derrick Henry going off, then I just feel like they don't have any chance of winning games, or if their defense isn't making big plays. So again, there's a reason why I picked the Bengals in this game. I feel like their offense is just going to do a lot more better in a game like this. So
same reason I picked the Bengals, man. I felt like this offense was much more versatile. I mean, like Derrick Henry, man, 17 carries for 38 yards. That Bengals defense stuffed the box and forced Tannehill to make plays to throw the ball, and it really necessarily didn't go anywhere for them. So, yeah, Bengals, man, good win for them. They needed this W right now. They're sitting, I think, 7th in playoff standings right now in the AFC, so they're fine for their spot. They got a couple good teams right behind them. Jets are like a game ahead of them, so they're in the thick of things, man. T. Higgins, if he was on any other team, #1 receiver. He's just shadowed by Jamar Chase. So to see him go off again, to see Hayden Hurst step up once again, Hayden Hurst the last couple of weeks for the Bengals been hooping. He's been the #2 option on the receiving end, and they won the game without Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. So it says a lot how this offense is coming through for them. It's much different than what it looked like the first 4 weeks. So it's looking good for the Bengals. Good one for them in a tough game.
Yeah, man, Joey Burrow, man, another day, another game. He's kind of been hooping this like late stretch of the season. I mean, if you just kind of erase the earlier spurts of the season, there would be a lot of different conversations about him. But that's another conversation. As far as the Titans, though, I would say it's quite simple to stop them. You just got to stuff the box with Henry, and then other than that, they don't got guys that can beat you over the top. I mean, Trayvon Burks, he's a young guy, so like he's still trying to find his way in the league, and they're like ranked like 30th in the league in offense or passing offense. So they're not moving anybody as far as like over the air. So other than that, like you just got to stop that. T. Higgins, what a guy! He's amazing. Any other team, he'll be a top wide receiver 1, but the fact that they got that tandem, and obviously like Chase come back against the Chiefs, I'm excited to see that for sure. That's going to be a good game for sure to go ahead and watch.
Yeah, man. It's like I feel like Joe Burrow. He watched our episode last week when I went against him because he didn't necessarily like he didn't do anything crazy, but he did enough to win this game. And I think I'm done going against him. I'm never going to do that again because I lost a point. I thought this Titans team was a lot better offensively. I thought their simple game plan was going to work against the Bengals, but I got to give credit to Zach Taylor, man. Offensively, I was very critical about his play calling and his play style. With the offense, when you have guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon in your backfield early on in the season. But I got to give him his flowers now because without your wide receiver one and Jamar Chase, he's been able to figure it out. Sitting on a 3-game win streak right now, going up against the Chiefs this week, and you're getting your main guys back. You're getting Mixon back. You're getting Chase back. This is a very, very good win for the Cincinnati Bengals in a very, very tight divisional race with the Baltimore Ravens, and they just lost yesterday. So we'll definitely get to them in a bit, but speaking about T. Higgins, man, you guys said it best, man. Wide receiver one on any other team, 7 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. And that touchdown was disgusting. It was just one-on-one with a receiver like him, and you're not going to win that matchup if you're a DB 9 times out of 10. So Joe Burrow put it in the right spot, and T. Higgins was able to make an amazing play on that ball. And Samaje Perine being able to hold it down while Mixon is in the concussion protocols was very, very good. It was very, very nice to see. Treylon Burks, it's 3 catches. Four catches, 70 yards, and a little fake touchdown because Derrick Henry fumbled the ball on his way to the end zone on this little screen pass. But this Titans team, man, they can do all they want on defense. They can do all they want with Derrick Henry running the ball. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a few throws here and there to win a game. And I just feel like they lack that with Ryan Tannehill and the weapons that they provided for him. Treylon Burks, like Hannah said, he's trying to find his way in the league. And, Robert Woods is pretty much an old head. He's not doing much in the league right now. So overall, this is a very, very good one for the Bengals, man. For them to figure it out without Jamar Chase and Mixon, or just Jamar Chase in general. Now with him coming back, and them being in a tight race with the Ravens and trying to find their way up in the standings in the AFC, man, they're a deadly team come playoff time. We know what they're about, especially with their run last year. So this is a very, very good one for them. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game. Not much to say about this one, but the Dolphins beat the Texans 30-15. This game was pretty much 30-0 at halftime. So 15 points in the second half when Tua was on the bench. Man, I know none of us tuned into this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this game. And it was obvious coming in, the Texans were going to get blown out. It was never a competition from the beginning of the game. I mean, Tua had, of course, a clean game. He didn't have to do much in the second half. Tyreek Hill, he had 85 yards. I think Jalen Waddle had 85 yards. Just a clean game for these guys. It's just nothing to write home about. So,
Yeah, clean game. First half, obviously 30-0, man. They benched their starters early. It was done. It was already done. So Texas getting the 15 points in the second half really didn't mean anything, but good one for the Dolphins. They're sitting at 8-3.
8-3.
Second in the NFC, right behind the Chiefs. So they're sitting good and comfortable, and they got a big game coming up this week. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a game day or not a game night game. Let me explain this. So you get home from work, you hug the wife, you tell the kids to come downstairs, you play scramble if you're a Dolphins fan, because this is not a serious game. You don't care about this at all. You know you're gonna win. Other than that, obviously the guys cooked up. Jalen, Tyreek, easy cook up. Tua did his thing. Other than that, they got a big test against the Niners. I'm excited to see that game next week. That's going to be an indicator of what we can see for them. Obviously, they proved themselves, but that's a big game for them. With that's one of the top defenses. So,
hey, Debo and Mostert going back and forth, man.
Oh yeah, you saw that.
Wide back over here, he getting a little emotional and stuff. Try to twist the story and stuff like that, but nonetheless,
you know how that is.
Gannon's coming for smoke.
Nah, I'll say my piece about this game. It was very, very simple too. Another clean game for him. He didn't have 3 touchdowns like I predicted, but I'll take 299 and a touchdown and 0 minutes in the second half. So a good one for the Dolphins. But looking forward to next week. Them playing the Niners and Raheem Mostert coming out and saying, we have a quarterback now that can sling. I have a quarterback now that can sling it. Why is he taking shots all of a sudden, man? Now, the Niners, they treated him good, man. He had that big game against the Green Bay Packers. I know Abdi remembers that one,
I mean, he's talking trash about the quarterback.
Did they treat him good, though? Did they treat him good? He came out talking about how they didn't treat him right when he got hurt. They tried to rush him back and everything.
He constantly had the injury bug, though.
Yeah, he Hannah's right. He had the injury bug, and you know, the Niners still try to do him justice. Of course, the contract situation and bringing him back, you know, of course they couldn't agree on a number, but you got to be realistic here.
And you got to think about it. The emergence of Eli Mitchell kind of lured him out as well.
I'm just saying. I'm not talking about figures, man. Them try to rush him
business,
back.
Man. I don't know why he's hurt. Like it's a business.
I mean, know, man.
He's injury prone, man. The Niners did him a solid. They gave him a captain. They named him one of the captains in his last year over there too. So, but for him to come out, like, forget about speaking about the Niners franchise as a whole and how they did him dirty, but to come out and, you know, take a shot at Jimmy G for absolutely no reason, you know, that one caught me by surprise. So, you know, of course, Debo is going to do. He's going to defend his quarterback. Anyone's going to do that, you know. So, I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup. I'm not even sure if Raheem Mostert is going to be able to, you know, suit up for that game because he's dealing with the injury right now. And I know Jeff Wilson's a little bit banged up, but he was able to come back end of the game against the Texans. So, overall, this is a good one for the Dolphins. But of course, like we mentioned, man, their big test is coming up in next week when they play San Francisco on the road. So we'll see what this team is really about. But overall, good one for them. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The New York Jets get a commanding win against the Chicago Bears without Justin Fields, 31-10. It was pretty much the Mike White show.
What did I say, man? Like I said this, I've been saying this since last year. I've been saying this since the start of the preseason. I've been saying this since the start of this season. Zach Wilson is not that guy, and he'll never be that guy. I said this almost 4 weeks back again regarding why they don't let this guy throw the ball, why they don't let Zach Wilson throw the ball, because they don't trust him, right? And it's been proven right that you can't let Zach Wilson throw the ball. And when Elijah Moore was coming out talking about, we're not getting anything in the air, we're not getting anything, and people are talking about, well, you guys have a winning record, why are you complaining, right? And then Zach Wilson started to struggle, and the team started to struggle, and they lost Breece Hall. All of a sudden now it's like, oh, you guys were right. I mean, you guys couldn't see it then. Zach Wilson's not a good quarterback, and he better start saving those game checks. I'm telling you that right now. He has to save those game checks because he's not gonna get any more after this. But I mean, the Mike White show, like, he got everybody involved. Elijah Moore got a touchdown. Garrett Wilson had a monster day. I mean, it was just simple for his Jets team. He opened up the playbook for them, and that's exactly what they needed. They have talent on the outside. They just needed someone to utilize it. Even early on in the season with Joe Flacco, even when they were losing games, Joe Flacco was keeping them in the games just because he was slinging it. And then Zach Wilson, the game manager, comes in. They get a couple gimmicky wins and stuff, and people are talking about, oh, it's a new era for the Jets. No, this guy's trash, and he should stay on the sideline and watch my guy Mike White. So,
Mike White, man, what a performance! 22 or 28, 313 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he hooped, man. He hooped. We talked about Zach Wilson, and a couple people said, hey, they're winning. He's doing his job, this and that. And it's like, you got Denzel Mims. He's complaining from last year. Elijah Moore this year. And then even Garrett Wilson's hopping on the train talking about, damn, like, this guy can't throw the ball for real. We've seen it, against the Bears. I mean, it's against the Bears, we really can't say much because it's not much of a team that they're playing, but at the same time, he cooked up. So going for the Jets, man. Garrett Wilson, 5 catches, 95 yards, and they got a big game next week against the Vikings. So I do want to see this performance happen again. And if he doesn't kind of perform like what we were expecting against the Vikings, and we might have to stop the train on Mike White.
Yeah, we don't have to go back to Zach Wilson though.
But we're not going back to Zach Wilson. Joe Flacco, he got a Super Bowl ring. Bring him off the bench. But the Jets sitting at 7-4. This quarterback controversy. Who knows if Mike White can keep on playing like this? So we'll see next week when they see the Vikings.
So I did my research. Zach Wilson's family actually owns JetBlue, so he has a future ahead of him. So this is not that good. I can't lie. So like, lose this gig, he got something ahead of him. But
he already has an investment.
Yeah, this was just like, he was just playing around. It was a little trial to see if he can do the quarterback thing, but it is what it is. He got a future ahead of him. But other than that,
ain't no way his family owns JetBlue though.
No, they do. Look it up.
No way. That's crazy.
But Zach Wilson truth. I had to find something along the lines after the.
I forgot he was one of the Zach Wilson fans right here.
Well, I mean, you know what got me though? I can't lie. I'll tell you guys the truth. So basically, like, remember the pro day, the little where he slinged it across the. Yeah, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I swear, I can't count how many people would just bit on that clip or like, yo, this is gonna be a franchise quarterback. I never trust pro day. I just don't trust pro day. It's crazy.
Yeah, one clip will change your draft stock. It's sick. But other than that, Garrett Wilson, 2 touchdowns, big emergency game for him as a rook. He was a bit frustrated from the The Patriots game, you could tell that from media. And then obviously Elijah Moore, I apologize to him as well, because I thought it was character issues, but to be quite honest, he's seen the underline of, hey, like this guy can't move the rock and we need to move on. So I apologize to Elijah Moore. I don't know if he would be watching this, but I apologize. And then other than that, let's see who else did well.
The Bears missed. What are you guys' thoughts on Justin Fields? Should they shut him down for the season? Because I mean, like, what are they playing for?
Darnell Moody.
Nah,
so,
shut him down. Shut him down. Shut him down. I'm not risking
I
it.
think, I think the smart game plan for Justin Fields was just to be shutting him down. You're playing for pretty much nothing. You're going to be dead last in the NFC North. What's the point? Justin Fields is going to come out on the field and show every week, but you're putting him at risk with that offensive line that he's that's protecting him. They're pretty much just letting guys attack him. He has to scramble and use his legs to make plays pretty much on every drive. He always has to scramble on every drive. So the smart play right here would be to bench Justin Fields and just move on with Trevor Siemian or Nathan Peterman, whoever they assign as a starter. Because in the beginning of this game, they were thinking about starting Nathan Peterman because Trevor Siemian was dealing with the injury, and the next thing you know, the first drive out, we see Trevor Siemian. But overall, man, this was a clean game from the Jets, man. Mike White, he came in there and he didn't skip a beat. I think he's only played maybe 5 games in his NFL career, and he's as a starter, and all those games he's shown that he can sling the rock. And Elijah Moore, he finally found the end zone. He finally got caught a couple of passes for 64 yards, and the receivers, man, they had themselves one hell of a day. So I know they went home happy. Zach Wilson, he wasn't even the second string quarterback or the third string quarterback. They just shut him down completely. They had him in street clothes and a hoodie, watching the game. It's a very, very humbling experience for him. He's going to need that. It's a tough pill to swallow, but the Jets, man, they have an opportunity to make the playoffs now. When are we ever going to see the Jets be in a position like this, to compete for a wild card spot ever again? So the Jets they're trying to capitalize on the opportunity. But one thing I do want to point out was Sauce Gardner against Chase Claypool. I know you guys saw that pass interference on him. I feel like Sauce Gardner is a good cornerback. Don't get me wrong when I say this, but I feel like he's a bit overly aggressive.
He's getting away with stuff.
He's getting away with a lot of stuff, and the refs are not necessarily throwing the flag. But that one, they had pretty much no choice. He was all over Chase Claypool on that one. And but overall, man, other than that, Sauce Gardner will be all right. This defense is going to be all right, and Mike White might be the guy. But they have an interesting test against my Minnesota Vikings this upcoming week on the road. So we'll see what they're really about with him under center. But overall, this is a good one for the Jets, sitting at 7-4 now. But we'll move on to the next game. The Washington Commanders at home get another win against the Atlanta Falcons. That one was a nail biter. Marcus Mariota threw a pick in the red zone with under a minute and 30 left to go.
How many games in a row is this for them?
I think this might be 5 now.
5, right? What's the record now?
So in their last 7 games, they're 6-1.
Wow.
Yeah, and their record now is 7-5, I believe. 7-5.
This team is picking up some steam, man, and it's crazy because if I'm Carson Wentz right now, I'm red hot. I'm heated. You go down, and then Taylor Heineke comes in. He picks up big wins against the Packers. I start stringing together some stuff, and now all of a sudden they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. I mean, and the defense deserves credit. They've been playing lights out. It's like back-to-back weeks. I want to say Kendall Fuller has had a interception. So again, they continue to perform. And what's crazy is I think what you were mentioning last week when we were talking about the NFC East is that it's still a possibility that all 4 teams can end up in the playoffs, which sounds crazy to me. All 4 teams from one division, but at this rate, if the Commanders keep performing, I mean, they might get into that spot because I mean they're on the outside looking in. And so they continue to perform. That defense looks phenomenal every single week. The D-line continues to get healthy, and even the secondary is performing. Taylor Heineke, he had a clean game. I think two touchdowns. Of course, he's been an upgrade over Carson Wentz ever since he came in, and there's no reason that they would ever need Carson Wentz again. So
another great one from the Commanders, man. They clutched it up last 30 seconds in the end zone, and they got an interception to win the game, So big win for them. Heineke, as you mentioned, he had an decent game, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, but it was mainly playing defense and B-Rob, B. Robinson getting 105 rushing yards, him scoring a touchdown as well on the receiving end, and they grinded out this W. And 6-1 in the last 7 games. Now they're building up steam, and as we said earlier in the show, Giants, they're losing a lot of steam right now. So they're in prime position to step up, get a playoff spot, and they might even have 4 teams coming out of that division. It might be a possibility. So I'm looking at the standings, and those last 3 spots is probably going to be the Giants, either between the Giants, Commanders, and Seattle. So we'll see what happens.
And like you said, B-Rob had himself a game, 105, 1 receiving touchdown as well. They're kind of leading towards Antonio Gibson for a couple of games. So we're kind of like, hey, like what's going on with B-Rob? Like you guys drafted him to be the guy, but now he's finally like doing this thing. Other than that, the Falcons are a funny team. I'll tell you this much. Like their brand of football keeps them in games, but it's hideous to watch. It's hilarious. It's just hilarious. That's my takeaway for sure. Like just watching them is like horrendous, but it works. So kudos to the coach, I guess. It's funny.
Yeah, this Washington Commanders football team, man. Even when Tyler Heineke, he's not doing anything like crazy, being their starting quarterback. But when he's under center and he's officially named the starter, it's like these guys, the defense and the offense, they rally behind him. He's their true leader in that locker room. So, it's nice to see the defense stepping up and Taylor Heineke still being able to, utilize his weapons, getting Scary Terry the ball and Curtis Samuel, and the running game is starting to get going now. But I can't say I'm surprised, man. Other than their loss against us, sitting at a record of, 6-1 the last 7, like we all mentioned, they're a sneaky team, man. And I think last week I talked about, all 4 teams making it to the playoffs, but I feel like if there's one team in their division that can drop out, I feel like at this point it's safe to say the New York Giants, they're probably the one team, because they have a couple of meetings left with the Giants and the Commanders these next couple of weeks. I think twice in the next 3 weeks they got to play each other. So if the Commanders come out 2-0, or they split 1-1, it could definitely end some team season. So it's going to be the Giants or the Commanders. But overall, this is a very, very good win for them. They've been trending in the right direction for quite some time now. When they got a convincing win against Aaron Rodgers at home, and then you go on the road to Philly and end their win streak, they're reeling right now. So this is a good win for them, and Ron Rivera and his guys. They're doing some great things in Washington. They were, in the beginning of the season, I mentioned, I was confused as to what their franchise was headed towards. They're always right in the middle. They were never on one side of the fence, like in a full rebuild or to be a true contender. But right now this season they're showing they're a wild card team and they're a playoff team. So all the credit in the world to them. So good win. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. I guess we're not surprised here, but the Carolina Panthers beat the Denver Broncos 23-10. The Broncos moved to 3-8 on the season.
Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Russell Wilson in 2022. That's crazy. That's a crazy statement. And I want to thank Big H for giving me those free points. I mean, we've seen this coming from a mile away. There's absolutely no reason for us to pick the Broncos over the Panthers. They haven't performed on offense once this season. And I'm like, there's nothing that the Broncos can do. They can get prime Randy Moss right now, and I'm still not picking them to win games. I mean, this offense is just horrendous. It's a terrible watch. Like every single week, we say the same exact things about this team. But on the flip side, Sam Darnold gave this offense a boost. I mean, DJ Moore came back alive. Deontay Foreman started to eat. Like the entire offense, to me, started clicking. And the Panthers defense is legit. Like they're able to do stuff on defense. And I feel like they're a young unit, and they have pieces that they can build around, and they have a clear direction of where they want to head. So it's a good win for them. On the other end, Russell Wilson, the worst contract in the NFL. And I can confidently say that, no question about it. This guy's just terrible. He looks washed. I mean, that clip of where I think he was arguing with, his offensive lineman, I want to say. He was arguing with one of his teammates on the sideline. Defensive tackle. He was yelling at him. And it's just like, it's like stuff like that just tells me more about how this Broncos season is going on. Like these guys are fed up. Like this defense, what more can it do? Like how can you go out there, you get a stop, and then all of a sudden it's 3 and out, 40 seconds later you're back on the field again? I mean, that's just Russell Wilson for you. The guy's just terrible as a quarterback. And Pete Carroll, every single week he continues to look like a genius for getting rid of this bum. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah, man. Bottle cap, penny flip, quarter flip, whatever that is not happening again. You know what I'm saying? It was the wrong side of the cap that fell, and it landed on Broncos. But I'm not too mad. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not too mad. They keep on losing. It's a great thing for what's gonna happen in Seattle. It's a great, great thing if they keep on losing and we get that top 3 pick. It's gonna be much needed. Very much needed. So I hope they keep on losing. And good one for Carolina. I was kind of happy to see Sam Darnold back. I did not want to watch Baker Mayfield back on that field. Young team. I mean, they're sitting at they're a game behind. They're a game behind Tampa Bay, if I'm correct.
They are.
Wow, and that's crazy. I didn't. They still have a chance to win the division. So anything's up for grabs in that division, man. So good one for the Panthers.
Yeah, man. I would say this though, BH, this is where we kind of unite. Seeing the downfall of the Denver Broncos, that's where we unite.
Oh man, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. A guy getting paid $250 million. We don't have to pay him that type of money, and we see his the true colors on that field, like the way he plays. Pete Carroll was hiding everything. Like Pete Carroll blanketed all of his
It
problems.
was running the rocket and play action over the locket. We did the gimmick the whole time. It was in our faces. Gimmick.
Now he can't do that, and it's like, damn. Yeah. Broncos just wasted $250 million on a 5'11" quarterback.
He's limited.
Continue on, Bandit.
No. Let me get this. What's called Russell Wilson ran off. So basically, they can't get over 17 points. Like if I was on that defense, like I'll be losing my head. I'll be throwing stuff in the locker room, just going crazy. The fact that your quarterback can't get you over 17 is outrageous in this league. Like it's literally like an offensive driven league. The rules are ahead for you, and you can't do that. I would say this though. I mean, obviously they're losing guys on offense, Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams. I mean, we'll see next year what they can do. But obviously, you can't say Nathaniel Hackett's coming back this next year. Like he's gone. He's a goner. He's done. Let's see the next coach they bring in, and then after that, like if Russ can't perform at this point, we just got to say he's washed. Like I'm already saying he's washed, but at that point, as like an organization like John Elway, got to like at least say he's washed at that point and move on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on this one. I mean, in the beginning of the season, I had the Broncos being my biggest disappointment for this upcoming season, and I never in my wildest dreams could I have predicted this. But of course, that with them sitting at a record of 3-8, I know, like a Big H said, man, he's happy with that top pick. I honestly don't know what Seattle will do with it. What do you guys? What are you thinking, Big H? What do you think Seattle should do with that top pick? Go after a quarterback or a defensive end, or what do you think?
We're gonna talk about this Raiders game, Seahawks game that's coming up in our schedule right now. But that our middle of our the defensive tackles and our defensive ends and the middle of that, whatever we got going on in the trenches, it does not work. It does not work. We need somebody to hold up the trenches down. I think one of our D tackles, Monet, he's 36 years old and he's playing a lot of snaps. So we got a guy that's well above age playing defensive tackle that can't move, can't stop the run. So like we gotta make a move there. I mean, we're gonna have another pick, hopefully in the top 20. We're gonna have 2 picks, so make some moves on the defensive tackle, defensive end. There's guys like Will Anderson. There's a couple other guys in the draft that we do need and we should look at. So we'll see what happens.
For sure. Overall, this is a good one for the Panthers, man. Of course, I'm a Baker Mayfield believer. Of course, you guys all know that, and for him to not play and for them to bring in Sam Darnold, the one thing I knew for sure, man, like I said in our preview episode last week, Sam Darnold and DJ Moore, they have a true connection. Whenever Sam Darnold is a quarterback, DJ Moore shows up, and that's exactly what he did. So, like, I knew going into this week, my whole reason for picking the Carolina Panthers was simple. DJ Moore was going to show up, and it was going to be over because those guys, when those guys are on the field together, they click like no other. So overall, this is a good one for the Panthers. The Broncos, they're going to fire Nathaniel Hackett for next season, and then, like Hannah said, at that point, you're going to have to truly assess Russell Wilson as a quarterback. But overall, it's a good one for them in a very, very tight divisional race. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. An upset. I think this is upset of the week. The Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Trevor Lawrence on a game-winning drive and a 2-point conversion, upset the Baltimore Ravens at home 28-27.
I think I'm on a weekly rant talking about this Ravens offense. I mean, at this point, it's kicking a dead horse. But I mean, what's new with Greg Roman's offense? Just like Devin Duvernay cannot get past any cornerback. Like that little gimmick that he had in the first 3 weeks, I told y'all, it was just Lamar covering up the cracks in this offense. Like it's a very, very simple game plan for this team. Every single time that they come in, it's for an opposing team. Sorry, it's just take away Mark Andrews if he plays, right? Take him away, and that's it. for this offense. This offense lacks any sort of versatility. Like 35-year-old Deshaun Jackson is the fastest player on this team and the only reliable pass catcher outside of Mark Andrews. That's such a crazy statement to make in 2022. Like the lack of offensive weapons in this team is just mind-boggling. This offense continues to just be just 3 and outs and just empty possessions. Like it just does not look good on every single play. And Lamar Jackson, towards the end of the game, he had an amazing touchdown drive. And then for them to just get picked apart by Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the second half, Trevor Lawrence played a hell of a game. Just absolutely shredded this Ravens defense. It felt like he was getting consistent pickups, moving the chains every single time. Zay Jones had a monster game. I think 146 yards and 11 catches. I mean, this team, to me right now, the Ravens, it's just like Lamar Jackson has every reason to leave this team. Like at this point, he has every reason. And in the offseason, it's going to really come down to, do you prioritize Greg Roman or do you prioritize Lamar Jackson? And this should be an easy decision, but I don't know. So, I mean, the Ravens, like, I don't know what else to say, but big ups to Trevor Lawrence, man. He had a monster game. This was, to me, the best game of his season. So it's a good win.
Man, you look at this game and it's like, okay, where do we put the blame? A lot of people say, it's Lamar's fault. They lost, or Lamar didn't close the game, or he didn't do this, or he didn't do that. He ended up with like 375 yards and a touchdown. He had a solid game. He showed up and pooped. And it's like certain situations towards the end of the game, their offense kind of slowed down. And it's like, okay, Mark Andrews, you take him out the game. Who's your other option? Like I'd be mentioned, Deshaun Jackson, Devin Duvernay. Like Devin Duvernay, if you put me on him and I haven't been in the gym in 6 months, you won't get 2 catches. That's how bad of a route runner he is. And it's clamps. And
the guy's literally a kick returner. He's a kick returner at wide receiver.
Like,
why is he up there?
Wide receiver. And your 2 top receivers, your 2 top targets that had the most catches in the game is your starting tight end had 4 and your backup tight end had 4. That's embarrassing to me. You can't have your starting tight end and your backup tight end be your 2 starting receivers and get the most yards and the most touches in the game like this. So I don't know, man. Greg Roman in this offense, I feel like it's even more than Greg Roman. It goes up to the box office with the managers and the coaches and everybody else. Like you had a chance to make moves on the deadline. You made no moves. You have a chance to make moves in free agency. They made no moves in free agency for a receiver. They know they don't have a receiver that's competent. So it's a lot. I feel like they try to sabotage Lamar Jackson, paint a bad image on him, to label him a bad quarterback and not get paid. It's my guy L-Jax. But on the other hand, man, Trevor Lawrence, man, this is the game we've been waiting for. I've just said best game of this year. This year, I feel like this is the best game of his career. The last 2 years, we finally seen like something like this. Him missing his number 1 back, Etienne, and him coming back down. What was it, 11 or 9 points? Great game from him. 29 for 37, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, man. So phenomenal play from him. Good win for Jacksonville. I really enjoy this game a lot. So yeah, Baltimore sitting at 7-4. I mean, ain't nothing else for them to fix up. It's gonna be like this the rest of the year. So Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson, Deshaun Jackson as your receivers. It's gonna be a tough outlook for Lamar, but goddamn.
Yeah, man. Having D-Jax in 2022 is kind of crazy. I can't lie. Just having him going over the top. I saw that play. I just giggled. But Trevor Lawrence, big game, 325. What a baller. He's finally finding his way in the league. And other than that, like I'm super excited for the Jags because they're getting the gambler next year, so they're getting an identity there. Like they're getting a grasp of
like Christian Kirk, Etienne, and Ridley is crazy.
I forgot they had Ridley. I forgot
Ridley, Etienne, and Christian
They're
Kirk.
They're gonna have
Zay
another
Jones.
Hey,
they're
gonna
cooking.
have a top draft pick as well. So hey, fix up on that old line. Get a nice lineman in the first. They might be cooking some on the offense. And
Someone's cooking, man.
I told you about Doug Peterson, man. Fantastic coach.
He changed the culture of Valley.
He went for a 2-point conversion as well, right?
He did.
That was a big one.
A couple of players came out post game and they were like, man, you see the difference of Doug Peterson and Urban Meyer, man. Like
they were talking mad trash about Urban Meyer.
There was like, I'll run through a wall. I'll go to war for Doug Peterson. Urban Meyer's a different story though. And he was like, you can see the difference in how Trevor Lawrence is playing this year compared to what he was doing last year. So big ups to Doug Peterson, man. He's fixing the culture on that team.
Yeah, but on the other end, the Ravens, Lamar, I feel like they're just kind of sabotaging Lamar, like because in the earlier the season, like he was doing his thing, but now at the later stretches, it's kind of difficult due to the fact that you know how that is. Like as far as the wide receiver core of Deshaun Jackson, Devin Duvernay, and Demarcus Robinson running around, giving you routes, it's not going to be beneficial at all. So I feel like the offseason is really going to be an indicator for that team to figure out like, hey, like what are we going to do to like help Lamar opposed to just having him just scrambling around trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think, you know, I'm not Lamar Jackson's biggest fan, but I can't sit here and say, that game was on him because one thing you guys didn't mention, they had 3 opportunities in the red zone, and I believe Lamar Jackson dotted up Mark Andrews drop pass. I think the other one was to Demarcus Robinson, one of the receivers, another drop pass, and then the other one was to the second tight end, the Boyle guy, another drop pass. So I can't sit here and say this game was on Lamar Jackson, man. This is just simply on his playmakers not stepping up, and I'm disappointed in Mark Andrews because that touchdown, that pass usually ends up being a touchdown for Mark Andrews. That's 6. You're Lamar Jackson's targeting you. You're the best weapon on this team. You're pretty much wide open. He puts it in a spot where nobody else can get it, but Mark Andrews, and you don't come down with that. That's a very, very disappointing. But this defense, man, they've been playing pretty well up until this game. I was disappointed on that and on that side of the ball as well. The Trevor Lawrence, he's a hell of a player, hell of a quarterback. But like the Jaguars losing Etienne and letting JaMychal Hasty come in there and kind of gash him in the receiving game, and I thought I was going to see a lot more from this defense, but I did have a little gut feeling that the Jaguars were going to win this game. I did say that in our preview episode last week, so I got to start sticking with my gut feeling, man. I can't just keep taking the favorites, but man, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, because I want to talk about that last touchdown to Marvin Jones, I believe. So it was kind of a controversial touchdown. So Marvin Jones, they're looking and reviewing to see if he got his foot down and stuff like that. And initially, they ruled it a touchdown, and Doug Peterson was ready to bring out his kicker, for the extra point. But while they were reviewing it, he said, "Bro, forget it. We're going for 2." So in Spanish, like they say, man, that's big cojones right there, bro. To go for a 2-point conversion at home, win or lose, you live and die with your quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, with the way he was playing in that game. So, hats off to Doug Peterson. You got to tip your hat to a guy like that. Guys in the locker room are rallying behind him. So, and Trevor Lawrence, one hell of a game. Even when you lose Travis Etienne, you're still able to find a way to win a game like this. This is a good one for them. Just in terms of the future for them, with their playmakers, and you add in a guy like the gambler Calvin Ridley to this offense, and you're going to get Etienne back at some point, even possibly next week. So, Lamar Jackson, man, I think he just needs to get out of there, but I know they'll franchise tag him. So he has like 0 leverage at this point. He's not going to want to take the contract they'll offer him because he wants more guaranteed money for what he does for this franchise. But I guess the people up top just don't see it. And other than that, his hands are tied, and he's just going to keep getting franchise tagged once and twice, and up until maybe 2-3 years from now, then he can lead this team. But they could have made a move for a wide receiver. The Ravens don't necessarily have to be stuck with this receiving core. OBJ still out there on the market. You could have made a strong pitch. I know Lamar Jackson has some pull in this league. He's one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He's top 6, 7. I'll give him that. So he's able to bring it. He's able to pull in a guy like OBJ for sure. And if you're just like a slight contender like the Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills, I'm for sure OBJ is considering you, but that's just not the case here. They're sitting at a record of 7-4, and they still have to meet the Bengals in Cincinnati one more time towards the end of the season. So that might just decide who wins their division. But overall, this is a good one for the Jaguars. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Los Angeles Chargers get a win in Arizona, 25-24. Justin Herbert, 2-point conversion, similar to the Baltimore Ravens and Jacksonville Jaguars game to Gerald Everett in a walk-off fashion.
I mean, we've been kind of critical of Justin Herbert as recently. I mean, his last 6 games, he has like a 7 touchdown, 5 interception ratio. So it's not like he's been performing lights out or anything of the sort. But one of the things that we wanted from Justin Herbert was to overcome adversity. We wanted to see when pressure was on him, what he was able to do. And like the guy had a makeshift offensive line. It was just a terrible offensive line that he came in with this game. Injuries have been just destroying this team. And yet, just that entire game, I mean, for him to be under those circumstances, I feel like he had a great game. And that 2-point conversion just capped it all off for him. I mean, the guy just dotted up whoever he could. Even if he wasn't able to go down the field because of a lack of time, he was able to get Eckler involved. And then, of course, that 2-point conversion was just icing on the cake. But, like, I can't lie. Part of me doesn't want to give him credit for that. Not him, but the Chargers for that 2-point conversion, because we've seen it last year. I can't count how many times last year. I know you guys will recall how many times last year they've went for 2 and literally just did not work out for them. Like multiple times these guys went for 2, but I mean, big ups for them just to put the game away. On the other side, I mean, Kyler Murray had a good game. His first multi-score touchdown game in a while, I want to say. I feel like he performed well, but overall, I mean, this is who the Cardinals are. I think like their season has been over since 3 or 4 weeks ago. I mean, there's not much talent left on this team. I mean, I don't expect to see Cliff Kingsbury here next year. I would assume maybe someone like Sean Payton would be coaching this team next year, but that's a different discussion. But I mean, this team, there's not much left for it. It's just like Big H mentioned, coming into the season, he didn't have high hopes for them, and rightfully so. It's just outside of DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, this team, and of course Marquise Brown made his return, but I mean, this team's just struggling on all fronts. So
I mean, I enjoyed this game. I ain't gonna lie. The ending towards this game was pretty nice. So, Chargers. Austin Eckler is going to end the year or projected to end the year with 123 receptions. And that just sounds wild to me. As a running back, he's going to lead the league in receptions. Crazy. Number 2, Keenan Allen. Big addition coming back to the team. It helped him a lot. Number 3, Joe Everett coming back to the team this week off injury. It helped him a lot. So the offense is looking like it's coming to shape. You know, I heard they held out Mike Williams for another week just for precaution on the ankle, but he's gonna be back next week. And they got a tough stretch towards the end of the season for them. Some big games against the Raiders. They got the Dolphins, and there was another game that was pretty tough on their schedule. They have the Titans as well, so they got some big games coming down, and they're out of the playoff picture right now, so they got to fight their way back in. But getting some key guys back healthy has helped that offense. And we know, like Ib said earlier, Staley going for a lot on 4th downs, 2-point conversions. He's very gutsy with it. So to see them do that and get the W against the Cardinals was good for them. And like I said early on in the season, Arizona to me, I never thought they were a good team. I always thought it was like fluke whenever they went 8-0, start off the season 8-0 and ended up 10-6 or 11-5, and it wasn't a great season for them. And it's like this year is just everything, from the defensive ball to the offensive line, even the quarterback play, sometimes to the running back play. And you could put a lot of blame on Cliff Kingsbury as well. Him not knowing how to control this offense, I feel like he lost the locker room. Him letting Kyler Murray argue with DeAndre Hopkins, or him arguing with Kyler Murray on the sideline, is not a good look for the team, and it's not a good look for Kyler Murray to be a leader as well. So other than D-Hop, I'm going to give somewhat Murray a little bit. I'm like, a little bit. I'm not gonna give him a lot, but I'm gonna give him a little bit. And then Marquise Brown being the addition as well. So they ain't really got much going on. JJ Watt's pushing 30, pushing 40. I mean, he's very old. So their best defensive players in him. Other than that, they got nothing else. So a good one for the Chargers, man. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so as far as Arizona Cardinals, there's a lot going on over there. I think they have the Hard Knocks, right? So there's a lot of sound bites going in about like D-Hop and Kyler arguing. Obviously, like Kyler just walked over to the press saying, "Hey, we're systematically like messed up." And like at that point, like I think honestly at this point, Cliff Kingsbury got to find a new job, hit the job market, figure out what he can do. But other than that, the Chargers, they balled out. Jay Herbert, he did his thing, threw for 3 tutties. Austin Eckler, he's a receiving back, he's doing his thing. Other than that, like they got a big game against us next week, so I'm excited to see what we can do and probably shut that down. Mad Max is gonna come for Justin, so we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, this was a very, very good win for the Los Angeles Chargers. They kind of needed this one badly. They're going up against a team like the Arizona Cardinals who, this game was kind of like the deciding factor for both their seasons, and the Chargers were on the right side of things. That maybe they can sneak into a wild card spot, and the Cardinals season is pretty much over at this point. For Kyler Murray to come out and like Henna said, Henna kind of sugarcoated it. He's the censored way. Schematically, he said schematically we're kind of fucked in that situation, because they're talking about the last play and who he was trying to go to, but. Other than that, man, all the credit in the world to Justin Herbert. Like Abdi said, we wanted to see him face adversity and overcome certain situations and try to be the bigger person and come out on the right side of things. So overall, this is a good game for him. And the Cardinals, like I said, their season is pretty much done. And Cliff Kingsbury, he's not going to be the coach for much longer. And but at the end of the day, you can move on from the coach, but maybe the quarterback's a real problem. It's kind of like a similar situation in Denver, where of course, they're going to move on from Nathaniel Hackett, and then the Broncos are going to truly have to assess Russell Wilson. I feel like the Cardinals are going to have to do the same thing when they bring in a new coach next year and do the same thing with Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray's not getting away with this one. I mean, he had himself a good game, a decent game overall, 1 interception, 2 touchdowns, a little less than 200 yards. But James Conner starting to come alive in the run game, 120 yards on 25 touches. And then D-Hop just being D-Hop. But, I thought this team would be a little bit better. Nothing too crazy this season, but so far they're looking like a pretty big disappointment. But then again, we had the Denver Broncos, so they're overshadowing everybody. But it's time to move on to the game. I will say the game of the week, in my opinion. The whole reason why Hennet the Bandit is here. You see him in the locker room right now. Let's get right into it, man. The Las Vegas Raiders go into Seattle and win this one 40-34 in overtime. Josh Jacobs. What was that touchdown run, Hennet? How many yards was it?
Let him kick us off.
85
Let him kick us off.
Yeah, let me kick this off, actually, man. Let me kick this off. Josh Jacobs, 303 scrimmage yards. That is insane. Like, that's unheard of. And then, I know you guys saw the little DA, little one-hand catch, little razzle-dazzle. And then, honestly, as far as Derek Carr, there's a lot of flack for him. But let's be honest, like, that one interception should have got called back where the one of your guys over there in Seattle kind of ran through the 12th man. You guys took that notion to reality over there. But other than that, we played a great game. It was back and forth. Holland's got a touchdown as well. It's good to see him get one as well. It's just Josh, man. He's really like emerging as one of those guys, and we're definitely gonna have to pay him. Which at that point, it's not in my hands, man. It's in Mark Davis's hands. So I'll let him handle that.
Bro, I don't know how, like, we let a player have 300 yards on this. You know how embarrassing that is? Like, I'm speechless. Everything was an HB dive. Up the A gap, up the B gap, up the A gap, up the B gap, left, right. Bro, we got cooked and abused, man. I have nothing else to say. Like, the hell, nobody else beat us but Josh Jacobs. Other than that, I feel like Gino had a decent game. He had 2 turnovers. The fumble, it was a big, crucial fumble, man. Kenneth Walker touched that ball. We dropped it in there. I think it was, 35-yard line in the Raiders territory? Bad positioning. We gave you guys the ball back. So there's a couple mistakes we had on the offensive side of the ball. But other than that, man, great win for the Raiders. I should talk about the Raiders a lot.
One more person that I have to shout out. My man, I know he's watching. Mad Max.
Shout out Mad Max.
He's going crazy. Man, golly, he was everywhere.
That second half, man. He went into that locker room, man. They gave him some type of powder, some type of juice. And he came out.
It's always a conspiracy with us, huh?
Hey, man, he came out shooting every play, and I was just like, God damn, where's this gonna come from? But shout out Mad Max, man. He had a great game. Great game to the Raiders. Kudos. Talking my shit about them a lot, but hey, they got one on us. You feel me? So
yeah, and we're in the hunt, by the way. That's neither here nor there.
Now, let me say this, man. Josh Jacobs, you guys should have picked up that option. Because contract year players are different. When a guy's contract is on the line, he's gonna play like that meme. I ain't never seen you act like this before. Because Josh Jacobs, like the burst and just the overall power, the jump cuts. Like, I was watching Barry Sanders out there. I was not watching Josh Jacobs. I was watching Barry Sanders out there. I mean, 303 scrimmage yards. I think the most scrimmage yards in a game since 2015 from one player. I mean, that's probably Julio Jones or something. I mean, the guy, this was just an absolute ridiculous game.
Julio had 296, I think.
Was he? Yes. So it's probably a running back that had. It's just ridiculous, man. For Josh Jacobs to just gash you guys multiple times. And Devontae Adams didn't have like a big game or anything. He had a decent game, 78 yards. But Josh Jacobs to be up there in receiving yards and rushing yards. I mean, this coming into this game, I had the Seahawks winning. And Gino, of course, he performed again. I mean, the guy has 19 touchdowns and 5 interceptions on the season. Like, he's having an absolute ridiculous season. But for me, the Seahawks, they have to prioritize that defensive line. I mean, for Josh Jacobs to gash you multiple times for long runs in one game, that's not a good sign. But I don't know. How is this? The Seahawks, did they win? They won last week, right? If I'm correct. Or did they lose?
We're sitting at 6-5 right now.
You guys might be.
Did you guys win last week though? Let me check.
Were you guys on bye last week?
We were on bye last week.
You lost to Tampa before that.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna lie,
before
you
that.
guys might be the new Giants, bro.
Down in
You
Germany.
guys, you guys might be like the Giants, man. Might be falling down that cliff, man. Because all it takes
really.
is one loss, two losses, string them together, you start diving.
I forgot who I think we faced. Either
Rams,
maybe?
Panthers, San Francisco, Kansas City, New York Jets, and Rams again.
I ain't gonna lie, that end of the stretch season is a bit. Those three games.
You hear those two Ram games, right? And then
Yeah.
the Carolina
Yeah,
games,
but
right?
Carolina ain't no joke.
Right.
Carolina ain't no joke
Yeah,
though.
Wait, stop.
Sorry, Carolina is
ain't-
no joke.
They're no joke against the Broncos, bro. Come on now. It's the difference. But I don't know. I
Hey
feel
man,
like
you was flipping coins for the Broncos.
Bottle caps, to be honest. But
bottom.
I mean, overall, man, I gotta say first. The first thing I'll say is, man, I feel like Hennett's taking it a bit light on you, Big H, for this one. You know, for all the shit you give him about Derek Carr and the Raiders overall. You know, for you guys to match up finally this season, I feel like this episode was kind of planned. You know, it was planned accordingly. We waited to bring Hennet on for this episode, for this moment. You know, for him to be sitting right here with a win, 40-34.
I'm gonna just play it classy. I'm playing it classy.
You
They
classic.
should have called back that interception. That's all I'm saying.
You
Like,
classic. You classic man, man.
I'll show the text messages right now, man. Classy.
I wasn't being classy. I mean, that's in private, man. I'll just.
I ain't gonna expose you like
World's
AB,
watching.
man. I got you. I ain't gonna expose you like AB, man. Let's just stay in the pocket.
But other than that, man, I gotta give credit to the Raiders, man. You know, coming in here on the road, they were sitting at 3-7 coming into this game, playing a team like Seattle, who, you know, of course they've been having a hell of a season. You know, the game plan was simple. You know, give Josh Jacobs the ball, and you have Devontae Adams. You're gonna get him involved, but you know, whoever gets going first, we'll just lean on him. You know, and for this game, it was Josh Jacobs. You know, for a guy to go off for 303 scrimmage yards, man, like. You know, I was watching that overtime drive, you know, where he just took it to the house. I was like, man, you know, like this defensive line for Seattle, you know, running backs can just have themselves one hell of a day on y'all defense. You know, like I thought Geno Smith would put up a better fight. He did. You know, of course, the game ending 40-34, but I wanted him to have a much cleaner game. You know, the Las Vegas Raiders secondary is not necessarily the greatest of secondaries. They're one of the worst in the league, right? So, you know, for him to throw interceptions and have a fumble, you know, fumble that probably wasn't his fault, you know, the offensive line not holding up. But overall, man, this is a good one for the Raiders. Devontae Adams not necessarily having the craziest games, but, you know, Devontae Adams, man, when you need him to make a play for you, he is going to make a play. That, you know, last week on the road against Denver, where he walked them off, you know, and then now went ahead and catch on a crucial drive this week on the road against Seattle. So, you know, he knows how to get it done. So if anybody, like I said last week, man, if anybody ever tells me he's the best receiver in the league, I'm not arguing with you on that one. But Seattle, like Abdi said, man, you know, it's a tough sledding moving forward. You know, those 3 games where you have the Chiefs and Niners and the Jets, a lot of those games can go either way. But, you know, with the way the NFC is shaping up,
I'm gonna say it right now. I guarantee you we'll be in the Jets. I'm not worried about no Jets. Like,
I mean,
I'll say Jets.
any
Mike
given
White
Sunday is a
ain't no
real
kids,
thing.
man.
Yeah,
Mike White ain't no kid.
Y'all mentioned the Niners.
I can't lie.
Man.
Mike White ain't no joke.
Yeah, Mike White leading the way, man.
I'm sure 2K player, man. Let him put his player back in the books, man. We ain't need him out there like that. Come on now,
man. Right now, I think the Jets are using their like 3rd string rookie running back, and I think he had 100 yards against the Bears this past week. So I'm sure he can get 100 yards on you guys in a touchdown. So, you know, with the way you guys play defense, but like Abdi said, similar outlook for compared to the Giants. You know, you guys' seasons can go down and go up with how you guys play towards this late stretch of games. But overall, good win for the Las Vegas Raiders, man. You know, sitting at a record of 4-7, they needed this one. Maybe they can turn their season around, kind of string along wins in the month of December. Maybe push for a wild card spot. Who knows, man? You know, they're looking at the standings right now. They're only like 2-3 games back. You know, anything can happen in football. But Seattle, they got to fix up going into next week. I think we have the Rams next week, so it's pretty much a bye week when we look at it. But speaking of the Rams, we'll go ahead and get to them next. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Rams 26-10. The Rams had their 3rd string quarterback. I don't even know something Perkins, Rice Perkins, and he threw for 161 yards and a touchdown.
I mean, like it's just that video where Sean McVay got hit in the face just for me just summarizes the entire season for the Rams. I mean, it's just a disaster. But that's the cost of selling your soul for a Super Bowl. If they were to go back and not do it, they'd 100% still choose to do it. Even at the cost of this team. I mean, just watching this game, it's actually hilarious just seeing Aaron Donald and the rest of the D line. There's like a picture of like Aaron Donald near Patrick Mahomes, and the rest of his defensive line is literally back. Like it's just him on an island, just trying to get to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this team, like Jalen Ramsey got cooked by Travis Kelce. I mean, this team to me is just like if I'm them, I blow it up this offseason. I take whatever I can get in terms of returns from guys like Cooper Kupp and Jalen Ramsey, whatever I'm able to get, and depending on whether Aaron Donald is retiring or not, I see if I can blow it up. But like for me, there's not much hope for this team. They're not gonna get wins like that. It's just gonna be a terrible team for the rest of the season. They're practically a bye week, like you said. And on the other side, I mean, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he didn't have a huge multi-touchdown game or anything, but again, he was efficient in terms of his throws. He got again Kelce and an end zone touchdown. I mean, there's nothing new there, and he continues to be the number one favorite for the MVP as he gets more wins. So I mean, there's nothing that changes on that side.
Yeah, I mean, we know the Rams. Everybody picked the Chiefs. It was going to be a cook sesh. Although I just want to point out that Mahomes' interception that he threw in the end zone, it was just completely stupid and retarded. Like wide open, he could have rushed it in 3 yards out, and he double coverage. He doesn't even throw to the guy that he was trying to throw to. He just throws to the safety in the back, and he's just like, what the hell? So bad pick from that, but he spread the wealth again, man. 320 pass yards. Isaiah Pacheco was big involved in this game. Feel like with him, leading that backfield they got, it's gonna be good. So good one for the Chiefs and the Rams. Time to blow it up. Get what you can for whatever you can. Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp. That's the only people they really got because Aaron Donald's gonna retire. So whatever those two can get you, you can get and try to save them, get some picks and restock, and hopefully something happens with that. But other than that, man, Mahomes MVP, keep it pushing. Ain't no more Josh Allen, y'all. What happened to that?
He lost that race a couple of weeks ago, man. He lost to Minnesota.
Every single week leading up to that Jets L, right? Josh Allen's MVP. Josh Allen's this. Where's Mahomes? Where's Mahomes?
The elbow. I kind of said
He's been quiet for 4 weeks. He's been quiet for 4 weeks.
He's got to point there.
Yeah, when he throws 2 touchdowns, the elbow's fine, right?
Yeah,
Crazy.
when he rushes for 100 yards and another touchdown, the elbow's fine. Come on now. It's all you, Bandit.
As far as the Rams, though, geez, like, man, I hate to talk about Jalen Ramsey like this, but they're taking turns on him. I'm talking about Chris Olave cooked up, Travis Kelce cooked up, Diggs cooked up week 1. Could you guys continue the list? Like, what's going on? Like, this conversation.
There's a lot of guys getting licks on him, man.
He got cooked by a rookie, too, if I'm not correct. I forgot who the rookie was. Dusting him down the middle.
Oh, wait, you're talking about on the Saints, right?
Saints, Olave.
No, Olave cooked him, yeah.
No, but another person cooked him too. But like, it's just the writing's on the wall. Obviously Aaron Donald, he should have left on a high note. I don't know what's up with him. He should have retired last year, but he played this year. He's probably done. Matthew Stafford, obviously he's hurt. Cooper Kupp got hurt. I think Sean McVay's going to retire as well. I think he said that. He hinted at that. So
Sean McVay hurt too. You could put him down in the books with a concussion.
Oh yeah, I mean his jaw's messed up. Yeah, that at that point, that's like the shortest prime I've ever seen for like a team ever in my life. So that's hilarious at that point. Yeah.
To speak about the Chiefs, man, I feel like in this game they just pretty much played down to their opponent. The defense did, they did his job. They forced turnovers, and Mahomes, he didn't have a crazy game, but he was efficient, like Abdi and Big H said. And 1 touchdown to Travis Kelce, that was pretty much his entire day, going over 300 yards. But I do want to speak about this Rams team. I was thinking about this when I was at work today. So going into this season, of course, we all know they sold their soul for a Super Bowl. They acquired a guy like OBJ. Towards the end of the last season and their home stretch, and their main goal was to win a Super Bowl on their home turf, similar to what Tampa did the year before, and that's exactly what they did, right? And then we go into the offseason, OBJ tears his ACL in the Super Bowl, so you don't bring back OBJ. And then, of course, we kind of push that aside because they bring in a guy like Allen Robinson for a lot of money, and they also bring in a guy like Bobby Wagner. But then again, you let go of a guy like Von Miller and let him go to Buffalo. So you lose 2 key guys that were pivotal, 2 crucial guys, a part of your offense and defense on your Super Bowl run on both sides of the ball. and then you try to bring two guys to try to replace him. You lose a top pass rusher and a top weapon, and you try to bring in a guy that's motivated and hungry like Allen Robinson. And then we move into August, and we hear about this noise about Matthew Stafford and his elbow, and how the Rams are kind of not taking it seriously, and they're not trying to let the world know that it's serious. They're trying to keep it under wraps. And then we go into this season. He doesn't have a great season. He's injured now, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to shut him down for the rest of the year with the way their season is going. And then they lose their offensive lineman, Andrew Whitworth, to retirement. Aaron Donald comes back to run it back, win another Super Bowl, try to win another Super Bowl. And then we go ahead, and now we're at this point in the season. They get cooked by the Bills in week 1, and now Cooper Kupp is injured. We see he's out on IR for 4 weeks. I think we're 2 weeks into that now, so it's additional 2 more weeks. Allen Robinson all of a sudden has a broken foot, some sort of injury with his foot, and he's having surgery, and he's out for the season now. And then Matthew Stafford's been dealing with that elbow injury that they've been trying to keep under wraps, and now he's dealing with a lot of concussions and a lot of bruised ribs and stuff like that, and he's out for pretty much the rest of the season. They're not going to bring him back at any point. It's just kind of funny how the Rams are kind of aiming to tank. And I don't believe they have any draft picks coming into this year. They sold their soul, like we said. They gave away all their draft picks. Their GM and their owner came out in the parade last year. It's saying F them picks. And so it's kind of funny. I don't understand what they're doing. I mean, it is what it is, right? Their season is pretty much over. And now, like you guys mentioned, you guys hit it right on the head. You guys kind of said what I was going to say. You trade a guy like Cooper Kupp. You try to get what you can get. He's your best value. He's the best player on your team, and you can get a lot of value for him. Aaron Donald's going into retirement. Jalen Ramsey, he's going into his 8th year next year. I feel like he still has a lot left in the tank. He can still play a little bit, even though a lot of guys have been getting their licks in, their punches in on him. And then Matthew Stafford. I feel like a lot of teams need a quarterback going into this offseason. And but there's not a lot of quarterbacks to go around, and I feel like you can trade a guy like Matthew Stafford. You paid him big money, but there's no point if you're trying to go into a full rebuild. There's no point in keeping a guy like Matthew Stafford around. With his age and his contract, you might as well sell him to a team like the Colts that might need a quarterback, or some other team that's looking to compete. Maybe even the Jets. They're thinking about. Of course, they're not thinking about. They're going to move on from Zach Wilson, and they're thinking about bringing another quarterback. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo when his contract's up with the 49ers. So. The Rams, they're getting away with, winning the Super Bowl last year and kind of having a Super Bowl hangover this year. But other than that, good one for the Chiefs. They came in here and they did what they were supposed to do, sitting at 9-2. And I got nothing to say about Patrick Mahomes, man. He is the front runner for the MVP award. I come on here and say who's the front runner, and I said it was Josh Allen for maybe 6-7 weeks. And, like I said, he lost that, that title to Patrick Mahomes. So I think at the end of the season, he'll be crowned the MVP if he just keeps playing the way he's playing. But good one for the Chiefs. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The San Francisco 49ers at home beat the Saints. They shut them out 13-0. The Saints haven't been shut out since 2001, I believe. It's been quite some time, but the San Francisco 49ers defense, man, they're able to shut them out.
I think really what just threw off this game automatically was just the turnovers for the Saints. Off the bat, the Alvin Kamara fumble. There's multiple times where they're unable to convert. Will Lutz, he missed the kick. There's just a lot going on for the Saints in this game. Just a lot of mistakes. And the Niners, of course, they're going to capitalize on that. You make a single mistake, and they're just going to attack you. And it's not like the offense performed mightily in this game for the 49ers. It's not like they had the greatest of games offensively. If you look at the box score, nobody had an eye-popping game. But defensively, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. And what they always do is they dominate teams. They harass teams. And for the Saints on their end, it was just a matter of mistakes. And maybe if they had capitalized on, even towards the end zone, they had fumbles, and Juwan Johnson, I believe there was a fumble that he could have recovered, but the Niners got to it first, and there's a lot of situation where the Saints just messed up, and this Niners defense is just incredible. Even when their offense is struggling, you can just rely on the fact that the Niners, their defense is going to show up. So they did that this week, and of course the Saints, they're losing more ground in this division every single week, unable to string wins, and of course, Andy Dalton, his gimmicky game, he used it up last week, so it's not going to happen again this week. So,
yeah, this game, one of the slow games in the afternoons. This is one of the games I did not want to watch. We had Seattle and the Raiders, and then we had Chargers and Arizona. Those two games were fantastic. But when we came to see this Niners game against the Saints, to me, it just looked like they were punting the ball, and then 2 turnovers from Alvin Kamara, and then it was just a slow, rough day for both teams on the offensive end. So gotta give big ups to the Niners defense. They play phenomenally well. I feel like the Saints were in the end zone a couple times, and they held the ground. Even on the 4th downs, they forced a couple turnovers in the end zone. So yeah, the defense stepped up big time, and so looking at it like Niners 7-4, number 1 in the division, man. It's looking like Eli Mitchell might be done for the season. So more load to McCaffrey. I get to see him touch the ball a lot more. So we'll see what happens with that. Other than that, they escaped by and got a good W. And like Abby said, Andy Dalton used up his gimmicky game. They're sitting at 4-8. And I'm waiting on the chance where they give Jameis Winston another opportunity. They're still fighting for a playoff spot in that division. So anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, man. With the defense like that, all you got to do is play keep away, which the Niners played effectively. They got the 2 key fumbles, got the takeaways. At that point, they shut them out. That's all she wrote. But other than that, I mean, they did what they had to do this game. But I'm really excited for them playing like a really good offense and throwing their defense there against the Dolphins. So that's kind of like a game I'm really keying in on and excited to see for sure.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that matchup with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and to see the Niners defense really get tested this upcoming week. But to talk about this game, not much to say, but you guys all said it. You guys all hit it right on the head. The Niners defense came to play, and like Abdi said, nobody on offense did anything like eye-opening, like no wows or anything like that. Brandon Ayuk had his catches here and there. Christian McCaffrey was involved, George Kittle here and there, and Jawan Jennings, stuff like that. The one thing I'm worried about on this Niners offense is injuries starting to pile up. Deebo Samuel's dealing with a quad injury. I think CMC is dealing with knee irritation, and they're monitoring that. And we all know CMC and his injuries and his injury history. So that might be a problem moving down the line. But losing Elijah Mitchell is really going to hurt this team if CMC is dealing with any sort of injury, simply because we know his injury history, like I said. But it's just like the next man up mentality in the running back room. With their running game and their offensive line, their run scheme, any guy can be back there and they're going to run for 100 yards and they'll be effective. So I'm a little bit worried, but I'm not too worried, But the Saints, man, being shut out, like Big H said, man, you might as well throw Jameis Winston back and give him his starting job back. Like he said, it wasn't fair for him to lose a spot to begin with. You don't normally lose a spot to injury. And I mean, it only makes sense if Andy Dalton was playing great, but he's not playing any better than Jameis Winston would. I feel like Jameis Winston can have all these games Andy Dalton's having, those 3 touchdown games. So they might make a move because they have a big game on Monday night against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course they keep dropping games, but the division is still close because the Bucs keeping it close with other teams. So maybe we'll see Jameis Winston this week, maybe not. It's up to Dennis Allen, but overall, good one for the Niners. Looking forward to this week's matchup against the Miami Dolphins. But we'll go ahead and move on to our Sunday night football matchup. I know Abdi has a lot to say about this one. The Eagles win this game 40-33 against the Green Bay Packers, but Aaron Rodgers unfortunately got injured, but Jordan Love stepped in and he did his thing, I got to say.
This game to me, and I've spoken extensively all season about Joe Barry. I've ranted about him multiple times, but if there was a game that really cemented everything that I have been saying about Joe Barry, it was this game. I mean, for Jalen Hurts, not just Jalen Hurts, his entire Eagles team, and for them to put up 300 rushing yards against us, it was just ridiculous. It felt like at no point that we were able to stop them on the ground. And then, this is part of Joe Barry's calling card. We're 3rd and 14. We don't press up, so they get 13, maybe 12 yards on a play. They go for it. I cannot count how many times they had a QB sneak, and it was just frustrating watching this game. It felt like everything was 4th and 1, they'd convert it. 4th and 1, they'd convert it. And they were just pummeling us on the ground. And offensively, we performed well. Of course, Aaron Rodgers had those 2 picks. The second one was just horrendous. He just got beaten to the spot by the safety. Literally an AI-generated safety that just literally came into the game randomly when Malcolm what's his name? MCJ got injured. And it's just for them to just Aaron Rodgers right now, it's time to sit out, old man, for this season at least. He's dealing with an oblique issue and he's dealing with a thumb issue, and it's just technically we're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but our chances of making it are not that high. So for me, it's just you have a fracture in your thumb and you're dealing with an oblique issue. Just sit out. there's no benefit of playing and not letting Jordan Love just develop. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is far from washed. I'm never gonna say that. He isn't washed. Even now, he has what I think 21 passing touchdowns, maybe 10 interceptions, something like that. So it's not like he's like horrific or anything. He's not like a washed quarterback. But at the same time, Jordan Love needs to get run in. I mean, I've said this for the last 3 weeks. You keep asking who's a wide receiver one for the Packers, and he displayed it yesterday. He displayed it yesterday again. Christian Watson. I mean, he makes everyone look like they're bloody running in mud. This guy's 6'4" and runs a 4.3. And I mean, I'm excited to see this Jordan Love and Christian Watson pairing. If Aaron Rodgers is unable to make it to the next game, I mean, for us to just this little pairing that we got going on, it got me excited, man. And Christian Watson, I told you were asking who's this wide receiver one of this Packers team. You're saying it was Romeo Doubs in the beginning of the season, but now of course it's Christian Watson. That's my wide receiver one, and it's gonna be the wide receiver one for this future. And on the other side, I mean, Philadelphia Eagles just pummeled us on the ground. I will say though, their defense, I'm a bit worried that they allowed us to pick them apart like that. I mean, it felt like if Aaron Rodgers didn't throw those two interceptions, of course the game was still 23-23. And then Aaron Jones had the holding penalty, and there's a lot of stuff. This Eagles team is beatable. It's not as dominant as we think, but of course the offensive line, it's like moving against the Great Wall of China. Like it's unable, like you can't get past that offensive line. It's like it doesn't matter who you have. You have prime JJ Watt and prime Aaron Donald. It doesn't matter. You're not getting past the offensive line. So it's a good one for them. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he might be the second person in line for that MVP after this game that he had. Like he just dominated us on the ground, so he might be the second runner for the MVP. So it's a good win for them.
Another tough game for the Packers, man. They lose their Hall of Fame quarterback to an injury. You know, they're whoever. What year did you guys draft Jordan Love? 2-3 years ago?
2019.
2019. You know, he stepped up second half. He didn't have a bad performance. It was a 6 for 9, 113 yards and a touchdown. I mean, 63 yards came from a big chunk passing to Christian Watson, but he looked poised in the pocket, you know. So other than that, man, your defense is just horrendous. It's the same thing with every single week. He's just like down the trenches, up the middle. You guys just get beat up every single time. And it showed against the Eagles. And to me, I felt like this game was very winnable for you guys until Aaron Rodgers got hurt. And those two interceptions in the first half, and you guys, I think, ended the first half 20-23, down by 3 points with those two interceptions.
Actually, so, I think because I think just before the half ended, Quez Watkins probably scored that touchdown, if I remember correctly.
23-20 with the half.
Yeah.
Correct. I think so.
Something like that.
I'm looking at it like, to me, the Eagles did win. I didn't expect the Packers to come in and win, but they put up a fight. But this Eagles defense does look vulnerable. Like the last couple of weeks, they've been in.
Their run defense is terrible. Their run defense is
terrible, and that's due to Jordan Davis being injured. So
yeah,
I still don't know what his timetable is coming back. But at this point, they're beatable. I feel like that team is very beatable. I mean, if teams can stop the run against the Eagles and force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball more than 30 to 35 times, I think they struggle. I mean, this guy's thrown the ball 15 to 16 times, ending the games with 156 yards passing or 190 yards passing or 180 yards passing. But their run game is phenomenally well. So, I mean, we got on Fields for saying, hey, get above 200 yards. But Jalen Hurts has a lot of games under 200 yards passing. So teams, you know, they can adjust and stop this team from running the ball up the guts and kind of physically stop them like that. And who knows, man. So you can say it's a good win, but yeah, they're sitting at 10-1, and we'll see next week what happens with Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, we could actually find out in a couple of days in the Pat McAfee show. We gotta wait that long. But other than that, as far as like a good note for the Packers, Christian Watson, what a player! Well, is that like 6 touchdowns on the year already? Like that's insane.
5 or 6.
Yeah, that's crazy. For the as far as the amount of games he's played to now, like that for to have 6 is impressive. And then obviously like the Eagles, you know, they ran the ball well. Miles Sanders career year, or not career year, excuse me.
He actually is he's on pace to have a career year, so.
Too. I'll take that too. And then a concern for them though, I can't lie, was AJ Brown. Do you see his eye, like the blood vessel popped out?
Yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah, then
I heard it was something like he got sick over the weekend and something happened with the blood vessel and it popped. But they said it's nothing to worry about in the upcoming week, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy, but I mean, he's been having fumbling. He fumbled the ball too. So.
He has actually been having turnover issues though. Like I have noticed that with AJ Brown. His hands have not been reliable recently.
As of late.
So
But
we're
yeah,
gonna have
it's
to see,
something to
man.
monitor for the Eagles. But other than that, good win. Who they got next week? Let me see who they have.
It's gonna be like I don't know. This team yes, they have a crazy offensive line and like they have a clear game plan. Their priorities are run the ball and then of course get play action and they have good wide receivers on the outside. But like I want to see Jalen Hurts get tested, like Big H mentioned. I want to see this guy throw the ball 35 times. Like I want to see him throw it in the air. Like it felt like the first half he was literally just destroying us on the ground. And because Joe Barry doesn't have a brain, this guy decided to rush from the edge instead of trying to keep him within the pocket. Like, and he didn't a lot. Like the entire game, we literally could not keep Jalen Hurts within the pocket. So, I mean, I want to see Jalen Hurts get tested, man.
Yeah. But to answer your question, Hannah, I think the Eagles have the Tennessee Titans at home next week. But to get back to this game, this is I mean, we're gonna call it a good one for the Eagles, but the way they got this win, I mean, I didn't expect the Packers to come in here and put up 33 points. I thought that their defense would, hold up and, do their job. But credit to Jalen Hurts for, running the ball, and their game plan was simple. If the run game's going and it's going, if not, you can play action out of that. But I do agree with you guys. This team is beatable. When you think about the team like the Dallas Cowboys, a team that's in their division, they met early on in the season, but that was back when they had Cooper Rush. But when they meet later December, it could be a completely different team because we know they're one of the best defenses in the league, and they might get a guy like OBJ in their offense. So, it might be scary hours in Philly, but to get back to this game, the Eagles did what they're supposed to do. I do want to, like, I agree with you guys. I do want to see Jalen Hurts win a game with his arm. Like, I want him to throw for 350 passing yards, 50 plus passing yards, win a game with his arm and not necessarily rely heavily on his, legs and making plays in the running game. But swole Batman, the pop blood vessel in his eye and stuff like that, and the plumbing issues, I think it'll all work out itself. He's still one of the best receivers in this league. We're gonna say top 10. But I gotta say, man, moving on to the Packers, love at first sight. I forgot I was gonna say next after that, but Jordan Love, man. Me and Abdi were watching a few preseason games early on this season, and there's some minerals there when it comes to him, like of course Abdi's we've been pretty much very harsh on him, his first couple of years in the league because he didn't look good, but in preseason he was showing some flashes, some nice throws being made here and there. But I feel like, for him to come into this game on primetime on the road in a situation like that where, you got to put up points against the Eagles to even be remotely close in the fourth quarter, he put together some nice drives. I got to say, I was very, very impressed. So I'm pissed off at the same time because, like, why do the Packers get to move on from quarterback to quarterback to quarterback so easily? Like, why? Like, every team has to go through some sort of rebuilding process. They got to struggle, but for the Packers, it's never been that way. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and potentially Jordan Love. Like, come on, man, it's just not fair at this point. But Christian Watson, man, I do got to apologize to him personally. I've been very harsh about him these last couple of weeks in terms of who's the true wide receiver one in that offense. Like Abdi said, I said Romeo Doubs was a wide receiver one. Next thing you know, he falls off the face of the earth. And he's on IR now. But Christian Watson, man, he's, Abdi said 6'4", 243, 40. He got speed, he got height, and he got the hands. And, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, when they connect with him, he's able to make big plays, and they end up in touchdowns. So he's a true wide receiver one in Green Bay. I did want to see some consistency there. And, he's giving me consistency each and every week. It's over 80 yards in a touchdown. He's either finding the end zone or he's getting the yards and the touchdown. So overall, good game by him. AJ Dillon finally decided to show up for one big touchdown run, quadzilla.
He finally decided to show up for once. It's crazy.
He finally got a touchdown. I think this is probably his first touchdown since like week 1 against Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it's like,
he finally looked good for once, bro. It's crazy.
So he had that, that monster run for a touchdown. And, Aaron Jones, man, he's special running back. When you give him the touches, he's going to make plays. He caught a touchdown in this game, and it was a dot by Aaron Rodgers. But I think the Packers, just like Abdi said, man, you gotta move on from Aaron Rodgers, man, for the rest of the season and maybe even moving into next year, regardless of what you pay him $50 million, whether or not you think he's washed. The direction this franchise is going, man, you might as well just give a guy like Jordan Love an opportunity, to showcase what he has in his bag, because the wide receiver core is not going to get any better than this. You might be able to bring in a guy like Michael Thomas simply because you guys have the greatest foot doctor in Green Bay. But other than that, if you don't bring in a wide receiver this offseason, I think Jordan Love and Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs, let those guys go play some football and build a connection and see if you guys are able to speed up this rebuild process and turn back the clock and turn into playoff contenders once again. But the Eagles, man, they're 10-1, but there's a lot of teams that are hunting for them, because Dallas Cowboys at the end of the month, like I mentioned, that's a game that I have marked on my schedule that I'm going to tune in from start to finish. I got to watch that game in Jerry's World. If the Eagles are a true team, like the team we think they are, they go into Jerry's World and get that win. And I think they got to get that win convincingly. It can't be, a few plays gone wrong and, it could have gone either way. It's got to be convincingly for me to be truly convinced about this Philadelphia Eagles football team. But overall, good win for them. They're sitting at 10-1. But we'll go ahead and move on to the last game of the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers go into Indianapolis on the road and win this game 24-17.
This game, it's just for the Steelers, it's just a bunch of field goals, man. It felt like field goal after field goal after field goal. Then Najee exited the game, and then Matt Ryan kind of had a better game in the second half, but like predictably, like I had the Steelers winning this game because of the backs of their defense. And if you look at the box score of this game, like literally nothing stands out to you like crazy. Matt Ryan had a decent second half, but outside of that, it's just Kenny Pickett didn't look the greatest. I don't know what the Steelers are going to be doing with their quarterback situation. Do they fully want to give the keys to Kenny Pickett? Is that the direction that they want to head to? Because I just don't see it with Kenny Pickett. I don't see the talent like that. They have a running back in Najee Harris, and they have the defense, and they have some pass catchers on the outside in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. But it feels like everyone in this offense is kind of starved. But Jonathan Taylor had a good game on the Colts side as well. But overall, I had the Steelers win this game just because of their defense and being able to keep this team in check. In the first half, they really did a good job of that. Second half, they kind of let off the gas. But overall, good win for the Steelers.
Good one for the Steelers. And like I said, I picked Steelers basically off the defense and them playing great usually and them getting their pieces back in Minka and TJ Watt. So, they played great the first half. They gave up. They let them come back into the game, 17-16. But, Kenny Pickett, came back, got some field goals for the team, and they won. So good one for the Steelers. Najee got hurt. Man, it's a lot of questions about that offense. But one bright thing about that offense that I'm really liking is George Pickens. Man, that guy is just electric. Every time they throw him the ball, it's a big catcher. It's a big play for him. So he's a good receiver. I'm expecting big things from him, and can't wait for that. Good one for the Steelers.
Yeah, basically go from there. That game wasn't fireworks, but the Steelers maintained. TJ Watt, of course, hell of a player. He was rushing Matt Ryan. They he threw for like 35 in the first half, so like they maintained. The
35 yards, right? It's crazy.
Neutralized them like crazy.
Yeah. But towards that, obviously, like Michael Pittman, I'm a little skeptical of him. Like, I don't think he's on the the CD JJ tier. He's kind of below that in that class.
People were overrating Michael Pittman Jr. coming into the season, though. Yeah, like they were putting him in like top 15 wide receiver discussions, and like I even heard he was better than T. Higgins coming into the season. He was in a category with those guys. I didn't really see it.
Yeah, no disrespect. I think he's like the Marvin Jones prototype. No disrespect. But like he proved it though today. Like he kind of had that fade route for the touchdown. So he got his ones over there. But other than that, it was a great win for the Steelers. They showed out. They're they have their identity back with Micah and TJ, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, I don't got much to say about this game. Of course, the Steelers had control in the first half, and I was texting Abdi. I told him, Matt Ryan was going to, make a comeback in the second half, and he kind of did, but then they lost momentum when they went down there at the 1 yard line. Everything was going well for them on that drive. They're going for a field goal, and next thing you know, there's a flag on the play and extends the drive in the red zone. They throw the ball to their rookie tight end, and it's a pass interference. And the next thing you know, they're literally at the 1 yard line, and they have a guy like Jonathan Taylor. I'm a fantasy owner of Jonathan Taylor, and let me tell you guys this: I was down exactly 6 points in my fantasy league, and I just needed him to score a touchdown to win the week. And that fumble from Matt Ryan, it costed me the win. I lost because of that, so I'm not too happy about that. But other than that, the Colts, the outlook of their season's pretty much over. The Steelers, they're just fighting to protect Mike Tomlin's above 500 streak. He's never gone below 500 as a head coach. Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. I feel like those guys are building a connection. They've had a connection since pretty much day one, and we keep seeing it week in and week out. So like Big H said, it's always a big catch and it's always a big play for him. He's a big playmaker. I mean, Deontay Johnson, I don't know what they're gonna do with him moving forward. I feel like he's so talented. He's a talented receiver, but he's not going to be the receiver that's going to beat you over the top. It's always like yards after catch and always like the quick slants and try to break one tackle and maybe gain a couple more yards on a play. But he has 0 touchdowns on the year. I'm also a fantasy owner of him, but he hasn't been in my starting lineup for maybe about 7 weeks, so I'm not too concerned about him. But that Jonathan Taylor touchdown, we know they fumbled, it hurt a lot, but overall, this is a good one for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had the Colts win in this one, but I mean, I'm not too pissed about me losing a point in this one. I'm just pissed that I lost in fantasy. So overall, good win. But that pretty much wraps up week 12 of the NFL season. Any final words, Phil, before we sign off here?
What's our record?
I always forget that each and every week, but this week, Abdi led the way, 13-3. Big H was right behind him at 12-4, and I came in dead last at 11-5. So we're pretty much neck and neck. A few games could have gone either way. But the total right now, me and Abdi are tied for first, 105, 77-1, and Big H is right behind us, down 3 games, 102, 77-1. So, we've broken the 100 barrier. We're getting into the late stretch of the season. We got to, if we have a few more weeks, and we got to make some tough decisions, some tough picks to see who's going to come out and, win the cash prize. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
But now, any final words before we sign off here, fellas?
It's all from me, man.
Thank you, Bandit, for hopping on the podcast. We appreciate it,
man.
brother.
Thank you guys for having me, man. It was a pleasure. I got to say my piece about the Raiders, even though I was being too kind. I can't lie. From what he was saying leading up to the week, I kind of just kept it classy, But other than that, I'm excited to see the Chargers, see what we got for them. But thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, Benny. Setting aside some time is not easy, so I really appreciate your time. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and close things out here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We really appreciate your love and support. We'd greatly appreciate it if you like, commented, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Media Podcast. For those of you that are watching us on YouTube, all of our social media handles will be in the beginning of this video. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, if you go to our Instagram page at New Media Podcast, you'll be able to navigate yourself to all of our social media handles there. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Sir.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Yes, now late, now that's overkill.